Hi, what happened to your eye?
My ex-boyfriend.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I hope you're giving her information of how to take care of that.
I've talked to her about that as, and Your Honor, we have a sensitive subject that we need to bring up today as well.
All right. If you all will meet me in the hallway, I'll talk to you in the hallway. Just have a seat.
Thank you.
If you'll have a seat, counsel, and I'll speak to attorneys. Nice to meet you
hall.
too. So you're the father?
I am.
Okay. All right. So this is what I always tell parents. And I used to be a defense attorney, so I know how it is with parents. When parents have children, their child can be 30, their child can be 40, that's still their baby, and they want to be involved. And it's especially true when you have a child who is young, 17, 18. But here's the thing, in this world, they're all considered adults.
Okay.
And when they have an attorney or something, the relationship is between them and their attorney. I used to have to tell parents all the time because sometimes the parents would hire me. And I used to have to sit down with parents and say, hey, you've hired me, you're paying me, but that's the end of our relationship. You can't be a part of discussions I have with my client because guess what? If you're part, I would tell them, if you're a part of discussions I have with my client, then there's no attorney-client privilege. And you know what ends up happening with that? When there's no attorney-client privilege, guess what? You can be called as a witness. Anybody who's in that room having a conversation, it's all fair game. They can be called as a witness. And maybe sometimes there is something that maybe a client wants only their attorney to know, and they don't want other people to know. But when parents are in the room, guess what? That all goes by the wayside. And sometimes we have to let our children go and let our children be adults. So on this side of the fence, I would always tell parents, it's great. I need you to be supportive. I need you to make sure that my client, your child, is keeping their mental health great. They know that everybody is rooting for them and are a part of their team. And I would tell them, but that's where it ends. And it can't go past that because when it does, there's an issue. And let me just tell you my experience with one case I had in the past. Had this client very young. Mother wanted to be 100% in the conversations, even though I would tell them, hey, you shouldn't be in this conversation and you cannot be talking to your child about what happened because guess what? You can be called as a witness. They wouldn't listen to me. And so when it came time to do a plea bargain agreement, the parent is in the hallway, and I can tell you this because they were in the hallway shouting, so everybody heard, so it's not confidential. So they're like, I want my child to do A, B, and C. And you know, I told them, I said, that's your child's choice. Because guess what? If your child chooses A, B, or C, and if something ends up happening and they end up going to prison, the judge is not going to say, you know what, your child only chose A, B, and C because of you, so we're going to let you suffer the consequences. You understand? And for some reason, with attorneys, people assume that being an attorney is easy and being a doctor is so much differently. Because if you go to see a doctor and you get a second opinion and a doctor tells you, oh yeah, your child needs a heart transplant, or oh yeah, we need to take the appendix out. A parent doesn't go to that doctor and say, well, I want to look at everything and let me just tell you how I think this appendix should be taken out. The person depends on the doctor, that the doctor knows what they're doing. And that's the same case. That's the same situation with these cases. And everybody needs to understand that. Cannot be crossing lines. Does everybody understand? Understand? All right. So that's the way it's going to be. So this is what's going to end up happening. We are going to come back and we're going to come back on June 27th. Counsel, is that enough time?
Yeah. Yes, Your Honor.
All right. So we're coming back on June 27th. And let me just tell you the way this court is run.
Well, you say 27th or 22nd?
27th.
I am double booked. I've got a hearing on the 27th.
Okay.
But
All right. We can bring it back on the 24th.
yes, thank you.
All right. So we're going to come back on June 24th. This is the way things run in this court. I make sure that everybody has the discovery. So when the defense counsel and everybody tells me I've received all the discovery, next thing I do, I require the state to tender an offer to the defense. And the defense has an ethical and legal obligation to tender that offer to their client and tell their client what the consequences are of the offer. Then I give everybody a plea deadline date because I want people to think about whether they want to accept the plea or not accept the plea. If they decide not to accept the plea, when I give them the plea deadline date, then that plea deadline date has expired and the next setting is going to be a jury trial. And if somebody after that plea deadline date has expired decide, oh gosh, I don't want to go to trial, the only way I'll accept a plea is for good cause. Otherwise, they'll have to plea open to the court. All right, everybody understand? Any questions, Dad?
I do have one
Sure.
question, Judge.
Yes.
When your child has a serious, persistent mental illness and a developmental disorder, and that is recognized and should be recognized early on in the Article 1622 of the Code of Criminal Procedure. And there's been multiple suicide attempts.
All right, let me stop you right there. So here's the thing. With regards to that, that is something for her attorney to address. What you should do as a parent is turn information over to the defense attorney if you think it's something that she needs to know or is something that her client wants.
This moment really hits home for parents in the courtroom. The judge stresses something so important when a child becomes an adult in the eyes of the law. They need to be given space to make their own decisions, especially in a case like this involving a young adult facing serious legal issues. That's tough for parents to step back. But the judge is clear. Interfering with attorney-client relationships can have serious consequences, including damaging trust and breaking confidentiality. This is about respecting your child's autonomy, even when it's hard to let go. And speaking of trust, how can parents balance being supportive without overstepping? Let me know your thoughts in the comments.
Wants her to know. You understand? So here's the thing. You got to cut the string. And when I say cut the string in the court, I mean cut the cord as in your daughter and her attorney need to be able to have conversations in private. Now, if her attorney wants information from you, then the attorney will ask you, say, hey, I need some information from you. These are records. Maybe I need these records. I'm trying to get these records. Do you have these records? This is something that I want to view. That's completely up to the attorney. But what you're telling me right now and quoting code sections to me, guess what that tells me? You're trying to be an attorney and you're not an attorney. Did you go to law school?
I didn't go to law school.
So there's the thing. People think that they can read penal codes. They can read the Code of Criminal Procedure and that's it. And not to step on anybody's toes, but for criminal law, when you're practicing criminal law, you know what your Bible is? Your Bible for your profession is this book. And you see how thick this book is? And so if I were not an attorney, guess what? I would see one section and I'm like, oh, that section says that. D is for done. But that's not the way it works. This entire code, guess what? You may read something in this section and still you have to go to this section because it all relates to it. It's similar to the Bible. And let me bring the Bible up for you. Some people will just read one section of the Bible and guess what? When you read that one section, that same person who is listed in that one section, there's somebody else in a different book that has something about that person in the other section. So when you just come away with one part of that section, you think, oh, I'm done, and you're not. And that's why you have to study this forward and backwards. And how many years have you been an attorney?
Over 20, and I'm board certified in criminal law.
All right. Over 20, board certified in criminal law. So when people are throwing code sections out to her, let me just tell you, I know her. Every attorney in here knows her. And all attorneys know each other because when you've been in Bexar County practicing for over 20 years, people know you, people know your work. What I can tell you is She would not be board certified in criminal law if she didn't know this book and know the updated part of the book. And what do you do for a living?
I have been the president of an international Fortune 400 company in
Okay.
Mexico City.
So let me ask you this.
Yes.
How would you feel is if you are doing that job, and how many years have you done that?
20.
You've done that for 20 years. And I just walk into your place of business and I'm telling you how to run things and telling you what the law is about something that you've been doing for all your adult life. Maybe you wouldn't take offense about it, but I guarantee you when I left the room, you know what you'd probably say? Who does she think she is? She doesn't have a degree in this. She hasn't even worked in this field and is trying to tell me how to do it. And for me, that's with any job. For example, I wouldn't go to McDonald's and tell them how to cook their fries. I haven't cooked their fries. I don't know how to cook it. I would not go to a contractor and tell them how to pour concrete. I may think I know how to pour concrete, but the little things I know about pouring concrete, you have to have it at a certain temperature. Otherwise, it's going to crack. You have to mix it appropriately. That's why when you see people out here mixing all their concrete with quick concrete, sometimes it doesn't go right because there are certain things that experience, knowledge, and education treat you about it. So here's the thing at the end of the day. At the end of the day, this is her attorney. From what I've seen, it appears to the court that she's following through on all mental health issues if there are any. You know why I know? Because I put in here, refer to mental health court. And I know that she's been working on doing that. That's why it's in here. Otherwise, it wouldn't be. And you know how I know that? Because she requested it. So when you come to me about the code of mental health, I already know she knows about that because otherwise it never would have been requested. Sure.
And of course,
As long as you're not quoting the law to me.
I won't go the long, Your Honor.
Okay.
Of course, she did go to mental health and that's where we discussed, and that's the absolute right place to be. Just a month ago during a suicide attempt, I said, I really finally have insurance and I'd like to get inpatient care for her because it's a very, serious issue.
Okay.
And I was direct, no, let's hold off until we can get.
So here's the thing though. The advice